Alhamdulillah, salatu wa salam ala rasulullah, amma ba'd. وقد نسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى علم نافع ورزقا طيبا وعملا متقبلا. Indeed, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for beneficial knowledge, for halal, wholesome provisions, and for actions which are accepted. Alhamdulillah, this morning, bi'ithnillahi ta'ala, we'll read a small excerpt, if we will, taken from one of the illustrious books that was authored by Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyya rahmatullahi ta'ala alayh. And we're going to talk about some of the different things that help us remove stress from our qalb, from our heart. And the name of this particular book is The Means, the Asbab of F1. Little technical difficulties there. But the means to opening or expanding one's breast, especially living in today's society, the hustle and bustle of life, dealing with all of the different things that are associated with it. We find that there are a lot of things that weigh down on our heart. There are a lot of things that weigh heavy on our heart. There are experiences, things that traumatized us, heartbreaks, letdowns, setbacks, disappointments, and all of these different things that weighs on us throughout our daily lives. Not just to mention the economical strain, the prices rising, the inflation, dealing with the bills, dealing with just trying to maintain and live. These things weigh on our heart. So the ulama of the past, like Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyya, talking about some of the different things that will help expand your breast, to remove those things. And I know it sounds a little bit of cliche that, a lot of times it sounds impassionate when you talk to other brothers or sisters who, when you tell them that you're going through something and they just respond by saying, it's mashallah, it's the qadr of Allah, And even though the statement is true, and even though things like that, it just feel like maybe they're being impassionate, they're not being more sympathetic or just listening to what you actually have to say. Don't be so dismissive of it. It might feel that way. But in reality, the truth is that the book and the sunnah is a remedy, and it is a cure, and it is simple as it sounds in terms of really applying it, And oftentimes we don't truly apply the Quran and the Sunnah to the best of our abilities to our lives. And so we find that we are weighed down with a lot of things that we could remove from us. And one of the things that he talks about in this most simple method, and just be honest with yourself, because I'm reflecting on myself here. How many of us constantly remember Allah? What does that consist of? How often do you remember Allah? Is it only when there's a circumstance, when only in a situation? And some of the key signs that tells you how often you remember Allah depends on how well organized you are in regards to your prayer. Do you pray often? Do you pray extra? How often you are with the Book of Allah? What is your relationship with the Book of Allah? Many of us, including myself, our jawal, as they call the phone, the cell phone, has become the most intimate thing that we have. We are more engaged. And if you look at it, your cell phone, whether you're using an Android or iPhone, I know for sure, they take daily reports on how often you use the phone. And throughout that week, they'll tell you what you engage in most from the apps on the phone and so forth. We are more engaging with our phone than we are with just the remembrance of Allah Jalla wa Ala. And your relationship with the Quran also plays a connection with your relationship with Allah. So how often do you remember Allah? Remembering Allah grants you a relief. Wallahi, because when you remember the dunya and you remember all of the things that's associated with it, you find nothing but pain. You find a little bit of pleasure here, but you find that it always leaves you more exhausted than ever, right? So Ibn Qayyim says constantly remembering Allah is from the means of removing that stress. the means of opening one's breast, expanding it, right? He says, Dawamu dhikruhu ala kulli hal. Remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all circumstances, in every situation. Wa fi kulli mawtin. No matter what place you might be at, no matter where you at in life, no matter if you at work. I'm at work right now. You know, I'm kind of early, waiting for us to start. But no matter wherever you at, you want to constantly remember Allahu Jalla wa Ala, right? You want to constantly keep Allah on your mind. It removes the burden, right? And society will have us think that, no, we need a drug to escape the problem. We need some type of pastime or some type of entertainment to just get over the problem. But that's not really going to do it, because that problem's still going to be there. You're just suffocating it. You understand? And then you're going to have to run a risk of being addicted to whatever thing you're using to try to, escape that reality. But remembering Allah only brings you more pleasure. You understand? Remembering Allah Jalla wa Ala only brings you more pleasure. This is why he says, فَلِذِكْرُ تَأْذِيرُ عَجِيبٌ. The effects of remembering Allah Jalla wa Ala is wondrous. It's amazing. فِانْشِرَاحُ الصَّدْرِ, that it has on opening and expanding one's breast. وَنَعِيمُ الْقَلْبِ, and giving that delight to the heart. Which also indicate to us that we don't know what's best for the heart. Human beings themselves do not know what's best for their hearts. What are you talking about? We don't. All right? We can love something that can actually truly be bad for us. We can desire something that can actually be harmful to us. And this is true. And we have done this in our lives. We can actually hate or dislike something that is actually good for us. And it actually will be beneficial towards us. But we turn away from it because we might, not be attracted to it. Or we say that it's boring or et cetera, right? Which shows us that we don't have that ability to really discern what is really beneficial for our hearts, right? وَلِلْغَافْلَ تَأْثِيرُ عَجِيبٌ فِي ضَيْكِهِ وَحَسْبِهِ وَعَذَابِهِ. Now, the thing about heedlessness, being heedlessness of Allah's remembrance, what does it do? The Shaykh is saying here, it leaves a strange effect. What type of effect? In regards that it tightens your heart, right? It tightens your heart, okay? And it strains the person within themselves in regards to their limitations and as well as their punishment, because you're going to find this strain on you. And that's what stress does, because you have positive stress and you have negative stress. But when you go into that deep dive of that stress that we have, that like bricks that's weighing on us, that's what it does. It feels like you're suffocating. You can't get over it. You just can't let it go. You can't pass it. Whatever it was, whatever the experience, whether it's another human being or whether it's a situation or circumstance or the loss of this or whatever the case may be, more money or needing more things, you find yourself can't get out. And that's a game that will never end, because you will never be satisfied with temporary things. The dunya is not like that, but it is only one thing that you can be satisfied with. One thing that will never cause you harm, and that's the remembrance of Allah. That's how we need to view it. That's how we need to understand it. The remembrance of Allah is the only thing that you will never have to worry about feeling harm from. Never. You understand? You could be thinking about your baby, all of the wonderful things about him, but that baby caused you to be upset sometimes. Sometimes y'all argue. Sometimes y'all fight. And then it can come a time where y'all separate. And now y'all once was the most delighted in each other's eyes, but now y'all hate each other. You understand? So y'all do detrimental things to destroy one another. But y'all had this love with each other at one time. That's not like with Allah. You are the only one who can separate the remembrance of Allah from yourself. Allah doesn't cut you off. The remembrance of Allah Jalla wa Ala doesn't do that for you. You understand? You never have to worry about that. So just think about what he's saying. Look what he says here. He says, وَهَذَا سَحْلُ مَيْسُورٌ عَلَى مَنْ يَسَّرَهُ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ. He says, in this issue of remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is something that is made easy. It's easy. Only for the one whom Allah makes it easy for. In other words, Allah have to guide you and grant you the tawfiq to be of those who constantly remember Him. May Allah make us of those who remember Him often. He says, تَذْكُرُ اللَّهَ بِأَذْكَارُ مُقَيِّدَةٍ in the nomic. And one of the means of remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is remembering Allah Jalla wa Ala with those restricted adhkars, okay? Those dhikr's and reminders that we need at the time of when you sleep. And I know me, sometimes I go to sleep, alhamdulillah, it's in the habit. I normally recite Ayatul Kursi, but it's been a couple of times where I just being engaged with the dunya, preoccupying, not going to sleep, reciting Ayatul Kursi or the 3 Qurs or anything like that. We have to get in the habit of constantly remembering Allah Jalla wa Ala before we sleep. All right? How do you want to leave this earth? If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala send the angel for you at any moment, how do you want to remember? You want to be testified that you remember Allah Jalla wa Ala before leaving. All right? So depending on your stage. He mentioned also at the time of waking up. How do you remember Allah Jalla wa Ala when you get up? Do you remember Allah? Do you know any du'as? Have you committed any du'as to memory? What do you supposed to do when you wake up, right? If you haven't done this and you haven't searched out and learned any of this, this is a clear sign that you are not really in touch with remembering Allah often, right? What you need to work on. And the dukhul manzil. How many of us remember Allah when we enter our homes? All right? Like today, alhamdulillah. Not every time, I'm not saying, but today I remember when I stepped out the house to go to work, to say the dua that I'm supposed to say when you leave out the house. Bismillah tawakkaltu ala Allah. All right, in the name of Allah, I place my trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Wala hawla wala quwwata illa billah. There is no might, no strength except in Allah. But that's not every day. Constantly remembering Allah Jalla wa Ala. This is why those du'as are there. They're there to protect us. Right? He says, in the dukhulul masjid, when you enter the masjid, do you remember the dua that you're supposed to say? And the khuruju minha, when you leave from that, when you exit from the masjid, do you remember what you're supposed to say? Adhkar muqayyada kathira. And when it comes to these restricted adhkars that you're supposed to say at certain times, in certain circumstances, there are many. Tadhkuru inda rukubik. When you are riding, whether you're riding on scepter, whether you're riding your own vehicle, if Allah bless you with one, whether you ride on a riding beast, whatever the case may be, whatever you are riding, you should remember Allah with those legislative adhkars. Tadhkuru bi tahleel. Remember Allah by saying La ilaha illallah. All right, you places that are specific, which the legislator have legislated for us, and remember Allah Jalla wa Ala. So this is what we wanted to bring, inshallah ta'ala, for y'all this morning. Hopefully, inshallah, you benefited, that we remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala constantly, because it will help remove the stress from us. Instead of worrying about the individual or the circumstances that cause that stress to weigh on us, think about Allah. Think about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ponder on His book. Think about the things that He promises for those who do good deeds. Think about the rewards that it is. Think about meeting Allah Jalla wa Ala. And all of these different things will help remove that burden. Whatever we said that was incorrect in our translation, definitely from ourselves, that we said is correct from Allah Jalla wa Ala.